can't remember what they called him. It was like the unknown ranger or something like that. Like he tells stories. Like, hello, folks. This is a piece of agate from the Keystone Mine in Death Valley. I'm the unknown bandit. And today we're here to tell the stories of Death Valley. This is Barker Ranch. This is the best picture you'll ever see of Barker Ranch. It's from 1940, and these are Death Valley days. Yeah, that's probably how I would do it, something like that. I remember Ronald Reagan. I think he was in the beginning of that. He was looking pretty and so and so. But besides that, yeah, that's probably how I'd do it. So yeah, this is the Death Valley days of the Manson family. Welcome. Do you even know anything about the Manson family and days in Death Valley besides what you've read in books? And we'll get into the books. We'll get into the books that you haven't seen. We'll get into files from the library. We'll get into pictures from the National Park Service. We'll get into pictures that belong to the Manson family themselves. We'll get into information so deep that you'll know everything about the Death Valley days of the Manson family. So let's start our story right here at Barker Ranch, where everybody knows about that the Manson family showed up with their school bus, and they moved in. But what do you know besides that about this place? Let's get into that a little bit. This is Barker Ranch, but actually, that's really not true. It's actually Thomason Ranch, because it was built by a man by the name of Blouch and his wife Helen Thomason. Back in 1937, they were two school teachers and they came here to Death Valley, which wasn't even Death Valley then. It wasn't even incorporated in the Death Valley limits then. So it was just the Panama area. And they came to do some mining. The only neighbors that they had when they got here was about 28 other people, and one of them happened to be the Myers family. The Myers family has roots back in this valley since back well in the 1800s. And everything about the Myers family has been secretive pretty much up until this point. Nobody goes down their roads because it's well posted. You better not go down their roads. Don't go on their property. It's well posted. If they can see you, they can shoot you. And it's also posted that they do surveillance there. And if you know anything about the Myers Ranch and the Myers Mine, on where the Myers Mine is at, the Myers Mine is on government property. It's actually on a military base. And it's not far from here. And what they do on that military base is they do surveillance. And at this cabin, they do surveillance as well. So if you do venture down this road, you better be very careful, because in the desert, things happen, and there's signs that say things happen out here that people just don't even remember. We was driving along, and all of a sudden, I don't know much about airplanes, although there's probably one flying over right now. Yeah, there is. But this thing, it reminded me of something Tom Cruise would be in, man, because it was one of them, one of them pointy military planes, and like I said, out in the desert, you're just surrounded by military bases out there, and they could be watching you because they fly so close to you. It was like, wow, wow. And it makes your heart beat really, really bad. Takes your blood pressure up, and it also makes you think, if these dudes up there really didn't want us down here anymore, it'd be dust, and they'd be wow. There's also UFOs out here that grab people, supposedly. They pick them up, and they take out their brains, they examine them, they put them back in, and they drop them back down. So you gotta watch out for aliens out there too. But you really gotta watch out for these military, because it's everywhere. And don't go on military property because they don't mess around. They really don't mess around. So do you really want to take that chance of walking down this road? I wouldn't. And anything that I've got here, it was all authorized. So, just so you know, there was 2 miners that were authorized to go to this place, and they're the ones that took most of them pictures. And they're also dead now, so you can't get anything from them anymore. And I thought their stories are dying along with them, so that's what this is. This is Death Valley Stories. Stories from old miners that I heard. It really wasn't Barker Ranch or Thomason Ranch that the Manson family was coming out here to live in. It was actually Myers Ranch, and Myers are connected to Capistrano. What have you read about the Myers Ranch? Let's take a look at the Manson books that mention something about the Myers Ranch and see what they have to say. This is from the book The Family by Ed Sanders. The family encountered the Myers Ranch, which is a well-kept series of buildings, including the ranch house, a trailer, and several outbuildings. The family goes on. They stayed for a couple of days at Myers Ranch, but were unable to secure permission from Myers' grandmother to remain, so the family established headquarters at the dilapidated Barker Ranch, just a quarter-mile west. Page 125. The book Will You Die For Me by Charles Watson. Myers Ranch. When the family first arrived in 1968, the ranches themselves were about a quarter of a mile apart. Myers Ranch was in very bad condition, run down and vandalized. The house had a large front room with a big fireplace, 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and a back porch with an attached bathroom. Page 154. Manson in his own words by New Emmons. First look at Myers Ranch, a fair-sized dwelling surrounded by unexpected green vegetation. The next morning, I, Manson, quizzed Kathy as to how receptive her grandmother would be if a bunch of us moved into her desert home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 25.
My Life with Charles Manson by Paul Watkins. Charlie and I took Brenda and Squeaky up to Myers Ranch to make love before dinner. Chapter 11. It got colder. Thanksgiving came and we had a huge meal around the fire at Myers Ranch. Chapter 11. My Life with Charles Manson by Paul Watkins. It was New Year's Eve, 1968. That night we all hiked up to the Myers place and built a roaring fire. Everyone was back. Chapter 12. September 1969, as we approached the Myers Ranch, Charlie described his plans to move in immediately. Chapter 19. September 1969. Moments later, Bruce come in to announce that everything seemed copacetic at Myers Ranch, ready to move in. Chapter 19. Brooks and Crockett were barely alive. Sounds like a Joan Baez song. Just like all this crap, man. It always sounds all the same. So, who were the Myerses? Nobody ever tells us. It seemed pretty mean though, because when it gets to the Manson part, he's like, Cappy's like, no, I don't think it'll be a good idea. My grandmother sounds mean. Or was she mean? What was the whole deal going on there? Get into that a little bit more, because some miners told me that the Myers family, both these miners said this, that the Myers family, they'd had roots out there in Death Valley for years. back well into the beginnings of the 1900s, if not into the 1800s. But the 1800s, they were still into mining. And it all started with one guy, a mule, some bacon, some flour, and a friend, and a dream to become rich. It was back in them days of the 49ers. Cappy had one of those in her family, and he did quite well. He became a multi-millionaire in Nevada. Somewhere in her line of family, I don't know if it's her, because they always talk about Bill Myers that lives at this Myers Ranch. The property was actually owned by a Al Myers, and so were about 250 other properties owned by an Al Myers out there in that area of the Panama Range. He even owned a big mine out there, and he was a big guy out there. He knew all the famous people out there too. He knew, actually, Bill Myers knew Seldom Seen Slim. He knew him personally. And there's newspaper articles that'll come up that'll show that they both knew each other, and they visited each other, and they talked to each other. And then there's other periodicals that'll come up, like a letter that popped up from somebody who wrote Bill Myers, and they was talking about Seldom Seen Slim in the letter, and how, you know, they were going to bring something by that drop it off so that he could get it when he was there. And they barely mention anything about mining. You know, it's never much about mining. The Myers family owned a couple places out there. They even opened up like a gift store or some kind of something just to make money. It was some kind of gift store, gift shop, something, I don't know. A lot of people don't really know a whole lot of history, because I was even talking to Ma Barker's grandson. And if you don't know, I'm gonna surprise you right now, because some people I know, there's some people that I know that actually met Ma Barker's grandson, and they don't even know it. Well, the people that run Ballarat now, the guy Chuck, I think that's his name. I'm not sure now, but it's the guy that's sitting in the chair, and his wife's there. Two beautiful people. Anyway, that actually is Ma Barker's grandson, and you didn't even know it. Yeah, that's how much this, you know, all this property stays in the family for long periods of time. And that's what happens with this Myers property. It's a family trust in the family for a long period of time. And it's started by a multi-millionaire by the name of Al. And he hung out and got conned here, even in, you know, he got conned himself out here by the guy that Scotty's Castle's named about. Scotty stole, I think it was silver out of, it was some rare metal out of Myers' mine, put it in his own mine, had Myers come over to buy the mine from him because Myers was rich, and Scotty pulls it up, and it actually belonged to Myers because Scotty's so there's a lot of bandits out there that you really don't know are bandits now because they got things named after him, like Scotty's Castle. He was pretty much you gotta check him out. He was a character in himself, but he had a direct connection to this descendant in Cappy's family that left this property to the Myers, and the whole Myers family owns this thing. It's not just one person, it's the whole entire Myers family are in this trust, and they take care of this trust, and they protect this trust. And again, I wouldn't go walking down these roads unless you've got a little trust, and you trust in God, because at any given time, they could fly over. Because not only do they still own this property here, they also own a mine, and the mine is on government property, and they have access to this mine of theirs on this government property. And it does surveillance there. It does government surveillance. And if you go to their Myers Ranch property, it also says they are doing surveillance there. So if you're there, smile and say cheese. But that's probably the reason you don't know much about Myers Ranch, is because it is owned by really, really rich people from the very beginning. I mean, this was like just think about it, in 1900, this dude had like $3 million that he got from one claim in Nevada. And then he started buying everything. And he went from that guy on a mule with some bacon and some flour and a friend and a dream to he achieved the dream, man. And they protect the dream now too, you know. And in 1980s, there was the National Park System was doing something funny. They were trying to acquire this property from, you know, the Myers family for a long period of time. And the Myers even fought the government, and they won. So they're not people to mess with. But at one point in the 1980s, the property got a little bit run down, and there was even a fire at one point where one of the buildings burned down in the place. And the government started this it was like take care, it was almost like adopt a cabin kind of thing out there, and you could adopt a cabin and you could take care of it, you know. And that's how basically that's how the Manson family started living in the cabin that they were living in, because you could go live there in it for like 14 days at a time or something like that, and they included the Myers cabin in that. And I don't think the Myers family liked that much, and they went to fight basically not just the state. It was the whole. That's not just the state park. That's a national park. So they were fighting the federal government to keep their property, and their property now is fenced off inside this area, which is still in Death Valley, and it's almost like. You might consider it just like a military base almost. It's like, do not go there. Do not, if you don't have no permission to be there, don't go there. I'm just telling you that right now, don't go there. You have no permission to be there. So let's talk a little bit about Barker Ranch. Barker Ranch was first owned by like I said, the Thomason family. And it's not Thompson, it's Thomason. Thomason. It's almost like Manson at the end, without the N. So it could be Tom Manson, you know? Almost. It's close. It's close. But anyway, when they came in, again, they came in with really no mining experience either. But they built this little part over here of Barker Ranch. It was a storage shed for basically their mine. They could stay there too. Because as you can see, it's sort of a little tiny storage area, a little tiny house. And like I said, the guy's name was Blouse Thompson. And he was a detective in Los Angeles. So he wasn't any bandit out there. He was actually in law enforcement. And he wasn't out there on the run hiding because he killed anybody, but actually he died in a fishing accident, and he never did come back. So that left it open. Now Helen, she wasn't coming back by herself, that was his wife. That's when the Barker family bought it. And then when the Barker family bought it, they actually added on to this thing. So it was basically what the Parks Department said is right in this area is where the Tomlinson family actually built it first, and then the Barkers, they added on. And I think the Barkers even added on the other building out there. So, and that was around the 1940s or something like that. So that was well before the Manson family ever got there. And another reason that Cappy probably was, actually Myers Ranch is just right behind here. So if you climb up this hill, it's not really far back there. So it's like, they make it sound like it's real far away. It's not really that far back there. And, but this is the place they ended up. And this is the place that Ma Barker eventually bought. And Ma Barker bought a lot of property out there too. So people were, you know, they were buyers and sellers, man. They were trying to make money on this stuff. And this property they were using for a summer house, basically. Because Cappy's mother was the one that was the daughter of the grandmother, basically, who now was in charge of this Myers Ranch, where it seemed like Cappy was so afraid of being there. And she had good reason to be. And we're going to get into that next time, because this is a whole, this is a whole fiasco for me to try to go through this information, Capistrano. Because really, she might have been part of that trust when she was a little child, and all the miners, everybody knew Cappy out there. Everybody knew her out there. She was well liked. It wasn't like she wasn't well liked or anything. But if you think about what I just said about the whole Myers thing now, and how possibly actually rich the Myers family got by tearing up the ground, of just what the Manson family said that they didn't really. And Capistrano kind of had a nudge towards the environment as well. And they didn't disassociate from her. They didn't say, boom, you're out of the family. No, you're not a Myers, get out of here. Because at that point she was Gillis too. Her name was Gillis. She had another family that was connected in there as well. It wasn't anything to do with that. It was Cappy herself. Cappy's the one that made the decision to cut it all off. And by cutting it all off, there wasn't no going and asking the grandmother, hey, can we have this property? Because it was already cut off at that point. And we'll get into that later in the next video, because it's a process for me to learn on exactly. First I had to learn on why in the heck did the Myers even, how in the world did they even get there? Because everybody's like magically just appeared. But no, they were there for a long period of time. And there were some other crazy people in here too. And I also asked Kurt's grandson about if they had mail delivery there. And he said they didn't. But actually, the Park Service, they said they did. They said that there was a guy who delivered it in a covered wagon, and the post office in Ballarat started in like 1897 or 67, one or the other. But they would deliver the mail, and they would deliver it all the way up to Myers Ranch. So they did have because I asked the grandson's like, hey, did they really deliver mail up there? The mail boy's like, no, they didn't deliver mail up, but they actually did deliver mail up there. And that got confirmed by C. So that's how the stories, you really just got to go and find out and try to figure out the stories. And I still don't know how this Al Myers guy is related to them all. Because if you go to his family tree, it's like all those rich people. They don't tell you who the kids were. They don't tell you who the relations were. And he was really rich back in the days of the 1900s. Can you imagine having $3 million back then? This dude was walking around in the mines out there with suits on, three-piece suits on, and pocket watches. And yeah, they was that kind of family. And then Cappy turned into another kind of family. Is it making sense to you that Cappy didn't really belong to those Myerses anymore? And it was by her own decision. But again, it's already like 3 o'clock in the morning here, and there's still airplanes. I don't know who comes in Los Angeles on 3 o'clock on an airplane, but I can still hear them. But until next time, we come back and talk about more Cappy. And it won't be that long. I might even talk about more of it tomorrow down here in the garage, because I've got a lot of this stuff that just piled up. It's like, man, I've been doing so much research on this. And that's about it for today. Until we talk about why some of the things happened at Barker Ranch that had nothing to do with Manson. Peace.